Am I the a-hole for abandoning my stepmom after the divorce? Strap in, this is a long one. Some backstory. My biological mother moved my older sister and I into a coworker's basement, soon to be stepmom, to save us from a very abusive situation involving my then stepfather. Because of this, my mother, sister, and I have always had this view that my stepmom, no matter what she did, had saved us, and that was ultimately better than what we lived through before. A couple months after moving in, my mother confessed that they had started dating and that she was a lesbian. Growing up with her, my family realized my stepmom was very narcissistic, materialistic, and manipulative, but it was always easier to sweep it under the rug, and I won't get into anything that happened during my childhood here. Cut to April of last year. I had just recently turned 25, and my mother calls me in the middle of the night. She told me that after 12 years of being together, she was leaving my stepmom and that she needed a place to stay until she figured out what she was doing. I told her to come sleep on my couch, and we would figure it out in the morning. We stayed up, and my mother told me why she left. Apparently, she had fallen out of love years ago, and this was mainly due to financial stress. My mother had accrued over $100K in debt because of medical bills, multiple maxed-out credit cards, and poor decisions regarding rent-to-own furniture and dealership vehicles. I honestly couldn't believe it, but I supported my mother, and during the next week we moved their camper into my yard so she could live in it. I'm not ashamed to admit that I was overjoyed to house my mother. I love her, and her job kept her out on the road a lot, so I hadn't been able to spend much time with her since I got pregnant back in 2019. My husband was equally happy because he wanted to finally get to know her, and he never liked my stepmom. During the 3 months she stayed with us, my mother used me for emotional support because she was very depressed, and my stepmom was telling anyone who would listen to her that my mother actually cheated. She didn't, but that she still wanted to rekindle their relationship. My mother had an internet friend that she would game with, but they were just friends until 2 months after the breakup. Then in June, my mother left our home state to move across country to be with her new girlfriend and to get a fresh new start. I was, and am still devastated. My mother is my rock, but she deserves the world and I want her to be happy, and if it's not here with me and my children and my sister, then I wasn't going to fight her on it. This is where things started to get messy between my stepmom and me. She would come over, mainly while my husband was away at work, and talk crap about my mother. My sister wasn't speaking with her mother, so my stepmom would try to get information out of me about what my mother was doing, how she was feeling, and about her new relationship. During this time, stepmom had lost a significant amount of weight and would stalk new girlfriend's Facebook and talk about how fat the new girlfriend was, stating, "Your mom doesn't even like chubbier girls." Problematic, but I mainly tried to ignore her and didn't make any defense because she's always been all bark and no bite. The new girlfriend would never hear about it from me, so I let it lie. Stepmom has always been a narcissist, so any conversation with her was all about how attractive women online were wanting to move her across country and take care of her, how she was so much better looking than new girlfriend, and that she was the better parent because she chose to stay for my sister and I when my mother didn't. She'd cut me off mid-sentence when I was trying to talk about my kids, and would only listen to me after purposely riling me up about my mother leaving to get an emotional reaction out of me. This got old fast, but I kept talking to her because my sister and I still loved her. I only began to resent her when an issue with my car came up last year. Back in 2020, I took over the payments on a car my stepmom was driving because I needed a new one and she wanted to get a new truck. Everything went fine with that for a while, and after the last payment I forgot about it entirely. I never got the title for some reason and we never exchanged receipts or a bill of sale, but I didn't think it was a big deal because she was my parent. Stupid, I know, but hindsight is 2020. Well, anyway, I got a ticket for having no insurance and got my plates suspended for 3 months because this selfish woman was taking my money but wasn't paying the insurance, and it lapsed. This turned into a bigger mess because my stepmom wouldn't answer her door or her phone when I made attempts to get the title for my car, so I could drive my car legally once the suspension was over. I would have waited, but I was already forced to drive my husband's single cab truck with 2 kids, and we had another on the way. My car, that was rotting in our driveway, was the only vehicle big enough to transport all of my kids safely when my new baby arrived. My stepmom would complain to my sister about me harassing her, and then send me some vague excuse via text about how she couldn't sign over the title. It was incredibly frustrating, but there wasn't anything I could do but let her put insurance back on my car under her name. I thought I could just make it work until my mother returned home for the birth of my daughter, but again, this woman allowed the insurance to lapse due to non-payment. I panicked, so I contacted the insurance company myself, and they let me put down my husband's debit card, so I could continue paying for my car's insurance until I got things figured out. Unfortunately, they didn't inform me that they were charging me over $400 for her unpaid insurance payments for her truck to settle the account. I've since been refunded, but at the time I was absolutely furious. When my mother made it home, I had already given birth, and no one could get a hold of my stepmom. I tried calling her, and when she didn't answer, I left her a very nasty voicemail. I'd never spoken to her like that ever in my life, but I was so incredibly frustrated. I was stressed beyond belief, and I snapped. I called her useless. I told her she was screwing up my life and had cost my husband so much money, and she needed to deal with me. Hours later, she must have listened to my voicemail and sent me a text saying that my husband could go by her work and she would sign the title. She actually followed through for once in her life and was polite to my husband when he saw her. I was so relieved I cried when my husband handed me the title. I vowed to never speak to her again, and luckily, my stepmom hasn't tried to reach out since then, and it's been over a month. She also hasn't been speaking to my sister, who she's always been closer to. I've always wondered why she drew this out for as long as she did, and my mother thinks that she was punishing me for picking a side when I allowed my mother to live on my property after they split. I don't know, but now to the question. My sister was talking to a family friend, and this person said to her that she couldn't believe that I just abandoned my stepmom because she's all alone and has no support system, and she was such a huge part of our lives. I do feel bad for her, but I am not going to be a pushover anymore. Anyone who disrespects me and doesn't want to put any effort into seeing my children has no place in my life. My kids deserve better, and I deserve better. But I'm only asking this because whenever I drive past her neighborhood, I find myself worrying about her and am bothered by the fact that I don't know if she's okay. She helped raise me after a really horrible situation, but now that I'm an adult, she's treated me like garbage. My sister agrees, but has stated that if she ever apologized to me, she might reconsider having her in our lives. I told my husband if that ever happens, he can't let me go back on my word. I truly am done with her, and I don't want her to ever meet my daughter. So, am I the a-hole?